The ego's fear of our choosing oneness. Knowledge is not the motivation for learning this course. Peace is. This is the prerequisite for knowledge only because those who are in conflict are not peaceful. And peace is the condition of knowledge because it is the condition of the kingdom. While in A Course in Miracles, the term knowledge is a synonym for love, truth, and reality. The attainment of knowledge is not why we should learn this course. Rather, our motivation should be that its teachings on the miracle offer us escape from all pain and conflict. Only then can we feel at peace and be truly happy. The attainment of peace can be taught, which is how Jesus motivates us to be His students. As we have seen, the basis of our worldly existence is the seeming conflict between God and the ego that ends, as does our special identity, when we learn Jesus' lessons of forgiveness. Knowledge can be restored only when you meet its conditions. This is not a bargain made by God, who makes no bargains. It is merely the result of your misuse of His laws on behalf of an imaginary will that is not His. The condition for knowledge is peace, which can be attained only through forgiveness. This process is required only because we have made a will separate from God's, which the ego never wants us to see. The ego also does not want us to understand that peace need not be bargained for, but simply accepted. Such acceptance restores our will to God's, undoing a will and self that never existed in reality, and dissolves the illusory effects of our seeming sin of misusing God's laws of love and creation. Knowledge is His will. If you are opposing His will, how can you have knowledge? I have told you what knowledge offers you, but perhaps you do not yet regard this as wholly desirable. If you did, you would not be so ready to throw it away when the ego asks for your allegiance. This explains why we continue to oppose the will of God. We do not want knowledge. We believe we exist as separated identities within a perceptual world that is the opposite of the unified world of heaven. We deem knowledge far from desirable, for we do not want to disappear into oneness and lose the specialness that makes us who we are, the thoughts, feelings, and experiences that define us. The ego always demands allegiance, which we gladly give because, not wanting to be in the presence of knowledge, we are always ready to throw it away, along with the one who reminds us of it. Simply stated, we wish to prove that the atonement principle and its teacher are wrong, and we, the individual self of separation, are right. The distractions of the ego may seem to interfere with your learning, but the ego has no power to distract you unless you give it the power to do so. This is one of the sentences the ego never wants us to read, because it affirms that the ego in itself is nothing. It has no power whatsoever except what comes from the mind's decision to be with it. The implication of this statement is enormous, for it exposes the truth about the nothingness of our world. All power in the illusion belongs solely to the decision-making mind, the you in the above sentence, and not to anything external. This is why there is no hierarchy of illusions and no order of difficulty in miracles. Every problem is the same, the mind's decision for the ego's separation, as is every solution, the mind's decision for the Holy Spirit's atonement. All power in heaven and earth is indeed given to us. For it is the power of our minds to choose whether to remain in the ego's hell or to return home. The ego's voice is an hallucination. You cannot expect it to say, "I am not real." We cannot expect the ego to say, "I am not real," any more than we can expect ourselves to look in the mirror and say, "This image is not real, nor is the self I feel, think about, and experience as me." Jesus does not expect us to say it either, but he is expecting us to ask his help that we may learn the effects of our not saying it, which is pain, distress, and unhappiness. He wants us to understand that these are the consequences we choose by listening to the ego's voice, in order to make it a meaningful decision against the ego. We need to understand why we have chosen to listen to it. What is clearly being expressed here is Jesus is asking us to shift our identification with the ego self we made to the we that made it, the mind's decision maker. Only then can we dispel the ego's delusional thought system and the hallucinations that inevitably follow from it.